Hello, welcome to Actors Anonymous Podcast. I am your host, Sweet Sam. With me today is Jordan and Cheryl. How you guys doing?
We're on a first name basis now.
Yeah, why not?
So casual.
Why not? Our guest today is Adina Porter from the 100 Underground, Newsroom, and True Blood. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can I just start off by saying you have
Okay.
this like classy atmosphere about you that whenever I'm like, I feel like I have to sit straight and just and I don't know. There's just something like that exuberating from you.
Yeah.
Exuberating?
Exuberating?
I'm gonna make a new word.
Dr. Seuss?
Exuberating.
Thank you very much. That's not the first time I've heard that.
Yeah.
I attribute it to that. I'm first generation American. My mother is from Bermuda. My father is from West Africa, Sierra Leone. So I was raised by two people who were raised in British colonies. And, I think when you're colonized, sorry, that's a little slip there. Which can definitely, be taken for what it is when you're colonized. You kind of try to pretend like you are just as good as the folks that are colonizing you. So it's always about being very proper. British, being very, very proper. I had an Aunt Margie Bean, who was the head of education in Bermuda, and she spoke like she was the queen. She was knighted by the queen 3 times, so she's Dame Margie Bean. So,
Wow.
So I do, come from that. So sitting up straight, and I guess my parents did a good job because I'm carrying it forward.
You are.
I love it.
Yeah. It's such a positive energy as well.
But I'm from the Bronx, so I can get street when I need to.
I want to start, and instinctively I wanted to pull this because I was watching clips of your work, and great work, amazing stuff. I really like it. I really dig it.
Thank you.
And it's from The War of Art, which I know you just told me it's on audiobook for you on iTunes, right? Or your iPod?
It's on my iPad, and I have started reading it, and I have been given the suggestion of listening to it via iTunes.
Yeah.
Actually kind of getting more things done that way, yeah.
I just want to read this small section. It's not too dense, but it's called A Professional Dedicates Himself or Herself to Mastering Technique. The professional respects his craft. He does not consider himself superior to it. He recognizes the contributions of those who have gone before him. He apprentices himself to them. The professional dedicates himself to mastering technique, not because he believes technique is substitute for inspiration, but because he wants to be in possession of the full arsenal of skills when inspiration does come. The professional is sly. He knows that by toiling beside the front door of technique, he leaves room for genius to enter by the back. Via your Wikipedia entry, I saw that you did some Shakespeare training. Is this correct?
But of course, yes.
I love talking with other actors who have done Shakespeare training. Do you feel there was, during that time, a sort of awakening or a new side to acting that you weren't aware of? Or that became aware to you?
Well, when you have to trust the iambic pentameter, when you have to just trust the words and trust the rhythm, yeah, when you have those kind of constraints and constraints of Old English and constraints of what one originally thought of when they saw that particular character because of non-traditional casting, if I'm doing Shakespeare. So, yeah. I mean, but I went to the High School Performing Arts and then SUNY Purchase, so I'm from conservatory background, so
right.
Shakespeare was just kind of like a given.
Yeah.
You had to do it.
Yeah, that's amazing that it was, because I think for a lot of actors, I don't even know, when I say a lot of actors, I don't even know the number. Why am I saying a lot of actors? Some actors don't have that opportunity, especially earlier on in their study of their craft or when they're performing to really touch Shakespeare and touch Shakespeare in the true way, There is, you just said trust too. And so let's apply that to when you're auditioning for TV or film work. how do you? I mean, sometimes the writing isn't as Shakespeare-like as you wish, so the trust is hard to pull from.
But you
do you
know
trust
what?
in yourself?
Shakespeare, in his time, he was doing, pulp, what the masses wanted. You know what I mean? So he didn't think it was all high art. It was.
That's so funny.
If you go back to like the Old Globe and that kind of stuff, so maybe some of his actors were like, "Oh, this is not." I can't think of someone before him, but I know there are. But we have to do it because we get bread at the end. So what your question was, so when I'm doing something and maybe the writing isn't as well thought out, what do I think or something?
Yeah. So, right now, let me rephrase that. You have Shakespeare in front of you and there's that trust in the words, trust that 90% of the work is done for you on the page. Whenever, let's say you don't even get a bad script. Let's say it's just a normal script and it's good. Everything's fine. Where do you trust the lines the same way you would trust a Shakespeare script? Do you still go by the pathway that's been forged for you on the lines as strictly as you would Shakespeare?
Well, I don't worry about the iambic pentameter. I don't worry about the rhythm that has to be there. And so I'll play around and maybe do a take one way, a take another way, but I'll stick to the words. I'm not one of those actors who throws in a lot of ums or curses or whatever so that I can feel like it's becoming more me. I kind of actually can't stand that. Cause I think that somebody stayed up to 3 o'clock in the morning working their ass off to try to come up with this. And so I'm going to trust, what the writer has given to me. Now, maybe later on they might say, okay, let's improvise and let's play around. And then maybe I'll use the words as inspiration. But, I did this before I worked for Aaron Sorkin on the Newsroom, where you wouldn't dare change his words.
Of course not.
Because of the musicality that he talks about. So if it's can't and not cannot because of the musicality. But I even ask a writer beforehand, do you mind if I say, it could be something as simple as, I won't say cannot, but it won't be something as simple as saying the person's name before the line or something. If I'm going to make a change, I'm going to ask permission of the person whose piece of art it is.
There's something amazing too when you read a script with that musicality in it and you reading the lines and it's just amazing because you're reading them for me, in different voices in your head all of a sudden. After a few lines have gone by, you start hearing the characters more clearly. And then the story starts taking shape in my mind. One of the scripts that done that for me, I had the pleasure of auditioning for a part in Nightcrawler.
Okay.
And it was one of those scripts where I was just like, oh man, this is coming to life. Like I did not stop once and I read the whole thing, which rarely happens for me. And so I was just like, whew. This was intense. And I got excited. You know what I mean? It's like I got extra excited to go in for this. And I just think that's so amazing when a writer can do that. I'm trying to practice on my writing because I am not a good writer. That is not my forte. Do you do writing as well to help you with acting at all? Or
No. I try to keep a journal when I remember, just to kind of write things down so that I can look back and go, oh, okay, that was what was going on in my life then. Or especially now that I have kids, just to kind of write down my thoughts about what was happening then, because things happen so fast and life is going by so fast that, I can look back and go, oh, I remember when she said that or he did this. But no, I'm not but I do have a couple of friends who are pen pals of mine. They didn't turn out to be pen pals. We met and they live in other parts of the world. And, I very much enjoy communicating with them via email. And I give myself time to have a glass of wine and really construct the email. So in one way, it's like a diary entry. Another way, it's sharing whatever's going on in my mind and my world with this one particular person. And they're going to give me feedback back. So that's, in that way, I'm very much enjoying creative writing.
Wow. That's such a unique, like a unique concept that it makes me like, I want to do that. That sounds so cool. I'm going to start messaging all the people.
Can we be pen pals? Well, or do we see each other too much?
It also helps if you're attracted to the other person that you're writing to. So there's that energy too that kind of goes into the words. So it can be kind of hot.
Now I really want to do this. Oh, that's awesome.
There's also that marination period too. You know what I mean? With pen paling, for instance, the writing, it's the waiting, and that's something we don't do nowadays.
Well,
and that that marination, that once you get their letter, you read it over a few times, and that didn't really click for me until now, where I would hear people say, "I read your letter 100 times," and it's like, why? Like, what are you
Do you have trouble reading? I don't
But yeah.
But I also have some texting friends. I'm getting a little too personal now, too. that I keep the entire stream, and I think about what 140 characters that I'm going to use, and then the response back. So you can communicate and build up that tension and that history lots of different ways. You can't do it the same with voice messaging. So I don't do that, but yeah, texting.
I do the same thing though. I save, like, people are like, "Oh, I'll just delete these people that I'm talking to." I was like, "No, I want that conversation." Like, I want to eventually one day just be like, export the entire conversation I've ever had with this person through texts, and just see, like, just be able to read it. Just like go back and see, like, 3 years ago when you had a conversation and where you went with it.
Absolutely.
It's like a historical, it's just so interesting to me.
Is there a way to do that? Is there a way to export your text?
I think
so. That you could see it? There is?
I think you can save them to your cloud.
Oh,
yeah, okay.
I don't know. I'm a widow, and my husband passed away 3 years ago. He was working out at the gym. He didn't realize he was having a heart attack, and he died.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Thank you. It's quite a life thing to, cause I never had anyone close to me die before that. And then to have the closest person in the world to me die was definitely huge. But I tried to save his last text. It just so happened that, it wasn't anything, he didn't know he was dying, but that's really great too, that the last text to me was something as ordinary as, everything else and I love you. But I saved it to my computer. And I know I did, but now I can't find it again. It's in my head. There's some things like the first time you meet, you didn't have your phone out. You didn't record what happened when that first time you knew this was someone special. Maybe you went home to your diary and you wrote it or something. But, a lot of moments we can't capture. We just experience it, and then, we remember it, or we get Alzheimer's and we forget it.
That's the journey.
That's life.
Going through such a personal tragedy and coming through that, how did that affect, even approaching your career and going back to your art and...
Well, I think I'm still going through it. I think it's something you always kind of, just the other day I saw this little cartoon, grief. What you think grief is supposed to be, and it's a straight line, but what grief actually is, and it's just all this, grumbles of light, like wires all mixed together. I was lucky. I was working, and I went to work the next day. I'm the breadwinner, and so I have to work. My husband was not in the business. He was a professional dog trainer. So, he was never on the set. So it was just always his energy was on the set. So in one way that was the same. I'm also lucky because I have a job where I can use whatever's going on in my life, in my work, or I was doing the newsroom at the time. So, that wasn't a part where you could, tear your hair out and cry, but denial is fantastic too. And you can kind of go there and just kind of not think about things for a minute and say someone else's words and get by. And there was a masseuse on set. And I remember asking the masseuse come in and go, okay, I'm not going to tell you what's going on because I did not want anyone to know. I did not want anyone to say, okay, Adina, you need to go home because, I'm the breadwinner. I did not want anyone to think I couldn't work. But I was able to get massages and breathe and if I was emotional, people were just like, well, she's an actor. But I have friends who were in my widow support group who were hedge fund managers. And being women and being in that position, they had to do the exact opposite. So they had to go into work and prove to everybody that they were still, nothing had changed. You don't have to worry about your money. You don't have to worry about, my job. And for them, I felt because all that they were feeling that they had to squish and push down. I'm so grateful I didn't have to do that.
Do you find it almost like, is it more stressful or more therapeutic to be able to go and like how you were saying, like he was a presence for you and like going through something so traumatic and being still portraying somebody else on set? Like, was that something to alleviate you from that kind of stress to play somebody else?
I guess so. Yeah. I could use it. I could, was it alleviating? I don't know if I would use that word. I just was happy to be able to use anything that's going on in my life. I remember this was like a few years later. I was doing, a scene from The 100 where Indra is going into, Arcadia, and she has this, gigantic army behind her, these big, gorgeous, thick men. And it was pouring rain and they didn't plan that, but they were like, yay, it's raining. It's fabulous, and it was beating down on us and people were kind of complaining and everything. But for me, it felt like this kind of metaphor that I'm going through a storm and I'm going to be just fine. But I was going to keep on going through the storm. And afterwards they were like, wow, Adina, that was so powerful. My goodness. I felt the grounder army and I was thought to myself, oh, if you only knew what I was really thinking about. But don't feel sorry for me.
No, I think that's one thing, like, for you to share that moment, like, just by performing, for you to have that moment for one, just as like a piece of art that you've done, and then to be able to contribute that to the fans of the show, that just makes it that much more compelling to me. Oh. And that makes it that much more special, I think.
Thank you.
There's a reverence, I feel like, whenever someone close to you, and for my personal beliefs, whenever someone does pass away who's close to me, there's a reverence that happens. I don't cry, and that's for personal reasons. And it's not, I'm sorry, or it's something I'm out of control of. It's one of those things in life that kind of, part of it reminds me that, okay, there is plenty in this world you are not in control of. This is one of them. And this is a thing that, it's going to happen to everyone. And, it's not a feeling sorry for. It's sometimes good just to like, just to sit and soak it in and experience what, like you're saying right now. I don't know. There's just something that's happening. There's like a vibration about it. That's the only way I can describe it. And maybe later it'll resonate with me something mentally, and then I'll be able to put it into words. But, yeah, there's just this vibration that's happening. And it's powerful, like what Jordan was saying, that vibration translates into your art as well. And they don't know why. And it's not their job to know why. And I love and respect that about you, that you didn't want to tell anyone because you are the breadwinner. That's,
I wish
that's all I can say.
I wish, because I just recently went through a loss as well, and
I'm sorry.
And it was one of those things where I hate the term "I'm sorry." I'm so sorry. Like, everybody says that, and I'm like, even if you don't mean it or whatever. Like, when people say that to me, I'm like, I want people to just be so like, there should be another term it should be like, just like, I'm with you.
Oh, like, I am with you.
I feel like that's simply put, the nicest thing you could say to someone. Just like, I am listening and I am with you right now. That would be like the perfect thing. Let's change that.
I hear that. Okay. All right. Okay. I just want to, I appreciate people saying I'm sorry for your loss. Just to kind of acknowledge it. Sometimes people, I think, try to want to, either go, oh, I can completely relate. Like when my father died, or I thought to myself, were you sleeping with your father? It's not the same thing. Your father's supposed to die.
I like how his fingers
Or I go, oh, I mean, and hey, I have a dog too. I love my dog and everything, but like, oh, I know what it was like when my pet died.
No.
Like, you know what, baby?
No.
It's not the same thing. Sorry.
No.
Maybe it is for you. And that's another conversation. But, I think people sometimes want to just kind of go, this is uncomfortable. Let me quickly, make this comfortable in some kind of way. But I remember a friend saying to me, I'm sorry you have to go through this. And I appreciated that.
That's nice
But,
way to say that.
I'm with you is, quicker, shorter. I appreciate that. The only thing is that it can also open the floodgates to people being with you.
That's very true. That is very true.
And sometimes I don't want you. You know what I mean? I'm doing just fine. You know what I mean? And I don't want to hear about what you think I need to do, or let's talk about, death and everything else. No, but maybe it's intonation.
True.
Were you on the first season of The 100, or was this a recent? I'm sorry, I don't recall.
No, it's okay. No, I was not on the first season of The 100. I began season 2, episode 2.
Season 2, episode 2. Okay. I remember reading for the pilot and going, "Oh, this is really cool," because it starts off, if I'm not mistaken, in space, and now they're on the ground. Spoiler alert.
Well, season 2, they were on the ground, but they're trying to be able to leave the capsule because they weren't able to breathe on the ground.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
So, but
we're actually going to take a quick break, and when we return, we've got a clip we can play.
Yep.
So, be right back.
Indra.
go away.
I need the woman I served as second. I need the warrior who taught me to be who I am.
I said get out of here, Sky Girl.
Indra, please. I'm going back to fight my own people, the people who did this to you. I'll fight my own brother if I have to, but I can't do it alone. One word from you and Triku will...
You see, even someone as slow and as weak as you can put me on my back. I should have died on that field.
Ooh. Drama.
That face.
Do you watch yourself ever in your stuff?
I'm a little behind. I haven't watched, I haven't seen that scene, season 7 of, True Blood. I haven't seen,
Really?
I gotta catch up on Underground.
Is it a time issue or also a thing where you're one of the actors who does not like to watch their
It's
stuff?
totally a time issue.
Okay.
I have a 9-year-old son and a 5.5-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can tell you about science projects. I can tell you about book reports. But at the end of the day, you know, when I get everything done, and I have an au pair, so you have, they can only work a certain amount of hours. She's working, when I'm not there, but when I'm physically there, then I let her go so I don't use up my hours, and then it's all me. So, you know, I'm doing all the mom stuff, the laundry, the dishes, and then at the end of the day, if I want to relax, I'm not going to watch myself. But I don't even have time to relax, quite honestly, because lucky me, I have more lines to learn.
That's good.
So, I have excellent problems.
I have to ask, I'm a big fan of the show. And what a unique show. I feel like it's definitely changed the face of the CW. It's given them a lot more ability to go out to a different demographic. It's it hit right, perfectly with like the Hunger Games vibe, I think. And especially for your character, which has started off being such a boss. Like she was so like tough on everybody, and she still is, but like the story she's gone through recently with how, like, with that scene, how she was injured in battle, and spoiler alert, sorry guys, catch up, but like, and where
I like your spoilers are after the spoiler, and then you're like, catch up, idiots.
If you're not current, that's not my problem. But especially with what she's going through now, like I'm just curious, especially with the character and the setup for the show, where you found that character, and what do you feel about what she's going through right now?
Great questions. Where did I find that character? I very much appreciated having an opportunity to play a warrior, because it connected me to my inner badass. You walk differently with a sword. You walk differently with boots. It just kind of happens. I created somehow or another a swag, developed that has, seeped into my real life, and I'm keeping it. I'm not apologizing for it. So I walk down the street and people will go, hey, ooh, Adina's got a swag. Oh, that's right. Adina's got a swag. Got a swag. So, how did I find her? Indra, does not have time to think about, she didn't have time to think about loss. She just had to keep moving forward. So I could find things in my life to connect to that. And then they wanted to see, maybe they saw something else and they thought, oh, Adina can get emotional. Let's see Indra get emotional. I just try to imagine not being able to, having to let the mask down for a little bit. I remember they wanted us to, for the mentor-mentee role to switch. And maybe even, being a mom, 'cause I always would tell people that I'm being strong because I have 2 kids. And then I see my kids and they're kids. They can't hold on to being sad for too long. Thank God. So, they're just living their lives and they're being themselves. And sometimes I don't know if I am copying them. And so when I go to a sad place and then come back fierce, I don't know if I'm copying my daughter or if she's copying me. So that switching back and forth of mentor-mentee. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you, with a show like that too, do you do a lot of your stunt work, or do you do?
Well, I better, because Marie does. So, I didn't know I had to work out before I became Indra, but once I became Indra, I was like, oh, okay. So I started training and everything before before the season would start, or being strong and fit and agile, for when we go into rehearsal, because I never know exactly, what the stunt is going to be and if I'm going to have a stunt double or not. So I do.
That's exciting. That's like gonna be like
fun.
Am I gonna do, do you ever just be like, am I gonna do this one? Am I gonna do this one?
Well, yeah, and my stunt double, she's really cool. She's like, okay, you got this. And so she's off on the side, and sometimes she's like, I guess they could have left me alone, left me home, because I have been able to do a few.
Yeah.
So, and then sometimes, she's there, but she's not my stunt double. She's being a background artist, and I'm doing the work, and I'm thinking, it could go faster if you did it. But I guess they decided they wanted me to do it this time. So we'll see how good they think I am. So next season, we got a season 4, whether or not I get to continue doing my stunts, or they're like, you know what, girlfriend, we're going to let the professionals do it.
That's awesome.
I don't know. You're looking pretty good. Looking
Thank
pretty
you.
fit. I think you should be fine for season 4.
Thank you
I
very
think you're
much.
more than fine for season 4.
Thank you. I've got a date tonight, so I'm getting ready on lots of different levels.
Adina, you've had such an incredible career. I mean, you've been on Broadway, you've been in TV, films. What advice would you give people just for staying in the game and pushing through? And I mean, I can only imagine any highs and lows you've been through.
I never give up. I also believe in training. You know what I mean? You know, dancers, musicians, you know, they don't like wake up in the morning and just decide, okay, I'm going to be an artist and then never pick up their instrument or don't get to know it well. I very much appreciated the quote from The Art of War that you started the program with. So I completely believe in getting training. I'm from a theater background. I think it's a strong suit, to have a theater background. I think LA casting people respect it. If you're, you know, from New York or Chicago, got that theater background, I think it also kind of gives you permission, because once you know you can handle being on stage and anything happening, once you know you can repeat that emotion 8 times a week and twice on Sundays and Wednesdays, it gives you permission to know you can handle when you get the script, an hour beforehand, that you can handle it. You know what I mean? So, that's my background. I also appreciated, being a kid. So I wasn't an actor as a child. I went to college. I studied it there, but on my summers, I traveled. Maybe that was stupid because, I wasn't always around for pilot season. I would travel around West Africa. But I got a lot of amazing experiences.
That's incredible.
Then yeah,
So,
pilot season. There's always another pilot season.
Yeah, I know. But some people are like, oh, you know, if you start at 21 or whatever, and if you're a woman too, you gotta start when you look a certain way. I'm very grateful for my path. I wouldn't change it. I think sometimes if you get notoriety a little too early, you don't know how to handle it, and it can kind of mess you up. So I very much appreciate knowing who I am, and being very comfortable with that before people start throwing "I love you" everywhere. You know what I mean? Because that can really kind of mess you up. So when the first time someone who I did not know from Adam and who does not know me from Adam says, "I love you," I wasn't like, "Ooh, I need this. This feels good." Because I was used to having, husband tell me that. So or a guy I at least like telling me that. So, but it can become very, like every once in a while I would feel kind of down and I would go, "Oh, let's see what Twitter says." And I thought, "Ooh, don't do that."
That can be dangerous.
That's really dangerous, because if I'm getting validations from that, then that also means if they say something negative, that also counts. So I'm very glad that I caught myself. It's kind of like going, I'll have a little bit more candy, and then you kind of catch yourself and go, "I had enough candy. Stop. Go have a piece. Go have an apple."
Dina,
I love it.
Seriously, this has been a spectacular episode, and we're almost out of time. But before we go,
Can I ask one more question?
yes, of course, go ahead, Jordan.
Do you have a worst audition story?
Of course I do. I'm an actor. Give me a break. I've been around for a while. I have a few worst audition stories. Okay, about 10 days ago, I had an audition that was not the best. And it was because, the description of the character was like a page long. And they were like, "And we want you to you come up with a creative voice and everything else." But I got the audition, the morning before. So it wasn't even 24 hours to be able to work on it.
Wow.
And what I should have said to my agent and manager was like, get me in on Friday. I need some time with this. That would have been taking care of myself. But I was like, oh, I want to be a good girl and do what I'm told. So I'm going to go in on Thursday. And, casting wise, I think if you're going to ask for all that, give an actor time to create all that. But then as an actor, be respectful of your art and go, you know what? If you want this, I need more time. And if there is not an appointment available on Friday, then guess what? You miss out. But I didn't do that. And so I went in and I gave a half-assed job. So there's someone out there who didn't see all that I can do. So that I don't appreciate. But my bad one was for, he created 30, what's that fireman cop show? 3 Rock. He was also part of ER. John Wells.
Oh.
Third Rock from the Sun?
No, Third Rock.
John Wells?
Yeah, John Wells. But he did a police fire show, Third something, and Michael Beach
Third Watch.
was on it. Yeah, there you go. Third Watch. So he was doing a news show. And they call me in. And when people say things, you know, they mean to be kind. They'll say, you know, I just love your work. Instead of saying to Adina, what my brain, when I hear that from a casting person and a producer on the couch right before I start, what they mean to say is, we're really glad you're here. And I really appreciate your work. What I hear is, great. The bar is really high. How can I mess this up? And Chris Bauer, an amazing actor, now says, when someone says that to him, he goes, the only thing better than acting I am is disappointing people. So that way you just kind of diffuse everything. So I'm going to learn to say that. But I did the audition and it wasn't really very good. And then I kind of started up again and everything else. And then I said to Mr. Wells, can I do it one more time? And he went, no. Exactly.
Burns.
Exactly.
But it means that I'm not a robot. I can't just turn it on and turn it off. And, I have, worked for other people. So it didn't end the career.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Love it.
And maybe if you're listening, Mr. Wells, maybe, maybe you'll let me come back in again.
Adina, you have been such a treat. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
People want to find you on Twitter.
I'm Adina Porter. It's simple.
Simple. Jordan, Cheryl, you guys are awesome.
Always a pleasure. Love being here.
Nikki, you're awesome. GVB Studios, you are awesome. Gabe, you're awesome.
Sam's awesome.
Sam's awesome too.
Sam is awesome.
Our listeners are awesome. Thank you for tuning in. This podcast is for you. Hit us up on Twitter, tweet us your questions, etc. And we'd love to hear from you. And always remember to listen, think, and then talk.